May I extend to you a very warm welcome to Stockport Town Hall for this police officer attestation ceremony. I'm Sergeant Trevor Richards from the Uniform Training Unit. I will be your MC this evening, and I look forward to telling you about the journey the new officers here tonight have embarked on since joining Greater Manchester Police. Before we start the ceremony, I'd like to run through some housekeeping, if I may. Toilet facilities are just in the foyer at the rear. And if you would please switch your phone off or onto silent, and if you're required to take a phone call, then please feel free to leave the room. You may, however, take as many photographs from your seat as you like during the ceremony. The force photographer will take official photographs of each officer as we go along. Clapping. Now, if you've ever been to a graduation ceremony where you are there for 4 hours and you wait for about 10 seconds for your loved one and your hands are falling off, well, we're not going to do that this evening. So we will invite small groups of officers to come forward to sign their memorandum of appointment in front of the magistrate. Would you please clap each group as they come forward? I'd now like to introduce a short video showcasing what Greater Manchester Police is all about.
Hello, Greater Manchester Police, how can I help?
We've got officers on the way, so you stay in the car, okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know when about you, but whenever that video plays, it makes me immensely proud to be an officer, and I think you should all be proud of your officers and the work that Greater Manchester Police does. I'd now like to welcome, firstly, the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, Ian Hopkins, Deputy Mayor of Manchester, Baroness Beverly Hughes, and our officiating magistrate this evening, Mr. Stephen Payne. Ladies and gentlemen, now the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's welcome our new recruits, and please put your hands together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Officers, take your seats. I'd like now to ask Mr. Hopkins, Chief Constable, for some words of welcome, sir.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're not too worn out after all that applause there at the beginning. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all here to Stockport Town Hall for this very special occasion. I'd also like to welcome those people that have joined us watching on Facebook Live. It is an opportunity for members of the community who can't be with us to witness this event, but also family and friends of our new colleagues that also are unable to join us this evening. Tonight is a legally binding ceremony as our officers swear the oath. And the oath couldn't be sworn unless it was in the presence of a magistrate. So thank you to our magistrate this evening, Stephen Payne, who is a great supporter of these events and of Greater Manchester Police. And Stephen's sat there at the front ready to listen to our new colleagues swear their oath. I'm delighted, as always, that we're joined by the Deputy Mayor for Greater Manchester Police, for Greater Manchester, who has responsibility for police, crime and fire right across Greater Manchester, Baroness Beverly Hughes. And also, we're really pleased that the Mayor of Stockport, Laura Booth, and the Mayoress, Lynn Glover, are able to join us this evening. A big thank you to Stockport Council for allowing us to use this ceremony in this wonderful, wonderful Edwardian building that we're in this evening. It really is a special location for us to hold this very special ceremony. And I'm delighted that Amanda Pears, who is one of the council members, the executive members for the Council for Police and Crime, is able to join us here also this evening. So tonight our officers swear an oath, and it's a really important oath that they swear to be impartial and fair to everyone they deal with, and to serve Her Majesty the Queen. And that in itself is important. They're not ordinary employees. They don't have employees' rights like many of you in the audience. They are Crown servants, and they're legislated for in separate legislation that sets out the office of Constable, which is what they are swearing to be this evening. So to my new colleagues, you're taking an oath this evening that gives you unique powers over your fellow citizens to take away their liberty and, where necessary, to use reasonable force. And with this unique power comes unique responsibility and unique levels of scrutiny. Standing before your peers, families and members of this community swearing the oath is something that is very powerful, and it's your commitment to each other and to the public of Greater Manchester that you're dedicating yourself to a life of public service and the highest standards of integrity. It means you have to set the highest standards for yourself both in your personal and your professional lives. You have a far more complex and challenging role than I certainly did when I joined the police service in 1989. DNA technology hadn't been introduced, no one had heard of the mobile telephone or 24-hour news, or let alone thought of the internet. And now you'll find yourselves dealing with crimes committed in cyberspace or dealing with victims from very different parts of the world. The scrutiny you face in relation to your actions is significant, and in many ways this is what you would expect given those unique powers that I spoke of. You're filmed constantly, and anything you say or your actions can be posted on social media and be around the world in minutes. Now, whatever journey you've taken to joining Greater Manchester Police, you're all part of our ambition to build the most effective team with the most talented people we can attract from our diverse communities right across Greater Manchester and beyond. And tonight is a significant moment in your police career, and one you will always remember. And I want to take the opportunity to remind you why policing is so important to society and what should drive you every day. Now, we are all privileged to live in a democratic society. And one of the fundamental pillars of a democracy is that citizens should be safe, both from physical and discriminatory harm. Greater Manchester Police's purpose is to protect society and to help keep people safe. This is your purpose every single day that you perform your duty as a Greater Manchester police officer. And you should do your utmost to carry out this purpose to the best of your ability. But I want you to go beyond that purpose. You all have a responsibility to improve the service that Greater Manchester Police provides each and every day, aiming to be better tomorrow than we were today. So that when you finally complete your service, you should be able to look back and say, I've done everything I can to leave Greater Manchester Police in a better place than when I started in 2019. Put simply, you are the future of policing. Please don't waste that opportunity. And this is partly why I've decided that we should hold these ceremonies in public settings such as this town hall. It's to reinforce with you as you swear the oath that we're here to serve the communities of Greater Manchester. We're here to keep places like Stockport and the people who live, work and visit here safe. Now I know that I am slightly biased as the Chief of Greater Manchester Police, but I do believe that you've joined one of the best police services in the UK, if not in the world. It is fair to say, though, it is also one of the most challenging and one that will test your strength of character and your intellect regularly. And never really has this been more true than in the last few years as we face terrorist attacks, extremist protests, and other large disruptions to the city and the city region, such as the Extinction Rebellion protests, party political conferences, huge community events, all of which have seen the force require mutual aid from other services around the country. More than ever before, actually, we've required that level of support. And recently, many of you will have seen the scenes filmed by members of the public at Manchester Arndale Centre as brave police officers ran towards danger to protect the public. And for me, this truly represents what policing is about, and that's what you are all now part of. As a police officer, you'll never know from one day to the next what you will face. And in the last few months, some of the work that we have been undertaking has seen us tackling organised crime. Recently, 4 men were jailed for over 25 years for their part in committing offences against young people, in exploiting them for sexual purposes. We've had weeks of intensive action that has seen us dealing with knife crime and seizing over 600 knives off the streets of Greater Manchester. And there's lots of work happening every single day that people don't hear about, it's less well publicised, including our relentless pursuit of the people who commit some of the most awful crimes, such as a man who stole a phone and a wallet from a pensioner who lay dying in the street. No matter what the circumstances or incident that you're facing or the work that you're involved with, as a Greater Manchester police officer, you have to maintain your professionalism at all times. And I'm sure that given the very tough selection processes you have been through, you will rise to this challenge. What you can rely on, though, is that Greater Manchester Police is a team, and teams look after each other. So when you need help or guidance or a shoulder to cry on, there will be somebody there to support you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll say a few more words at the end, but I just wanted to thank you once again for being here. And I wish to say to my new colleagues, I hope you have a fantastic career and be proud of being a Greater Manchester police officer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The new officers here tonight be swearing an oath to Her Majesty the Queen. Can I therefore ask you to turn to page 3 in your booklets and all stand to sing the national anthem. Officers, stand. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Officers remain standing. Officers to be attested, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the Queen in the office of Constable with fairness and integrity, diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights, and according equal respect to all people, and that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved, and prevent all offences against people and property, and that while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof, faithfully according to law. Please lower your hand and be seated. Mr. Payne, would you like to take your seat on the stage, please? I will now invite our new officers to sign their memorandums of appointment in front of the magistrate. Can the following officers please come forward? Antasia Adam Smith, Mariam Ahmed, Taiba Ahmed, Gulzar Akhtar, Falak Ali, Jamshad Arshad, Kieran Ashworth, Akib Aslam, Saiba Aslam, Mohammed Safi Atiyak, Deo Awadeji, James Bohr, Hannah Belcher, Kaylin Lee Ben, Aidan Blears, Henry Bucock, Peter Bowyer, Paul Bradbury, Keely Breen. Ladies and gentlemen, I've jotted some things down that you may be interested in this evening. Tell you about the journey that tonight's attestees have embarked on. Your attestee is one of almost 750 new officers that Greater Manchester Police are taking on this year. Recruitment has been from both within the organisation and externally. All bring vital and varied skills to their role as an officer. 7 have been special constables, 6 have been police community support officers, and 14 have been police staff. 79 of the officers this evening have a degree. We have 4 new recruits who also began with GMP on our very successful apprenticeship programme. 15 have done voluntary work or charity work in their community. 2 have gone as far as Peru and Kenya to help other people. 4 officers here this evening are ex-military. We also have a number of sports coaches specialising in swimming, gymnastics and even paddleboarding. And as usual, we also have 11 officers who are following in family footsteps in joining the police, which is wonderful. All here tonight have dreamt of becoming a police officer and having that desire to help others. A few more facts and figures, and like a regular Google this evening. GMP is one of the biggest police forces in the country. We currently have 6,341 regular officers, 358 special constabulary, 3,976 police staff, and 631 PCSOs, 152 volunteers, and 387 cadets. Last year, our force dealt with around 30,000 burglaries, 17,500 shoplifting offences, 32,000 vehicle offences, 9,500 sexual offences, 67,000 domestic abuse incidents, 43,000 public order offences, 9,000 hate crimes, and 60 murders. And that just scratches the surface of what GMP deal with. We also deal with thousands of other crimes, as well as neighbourhood and community issues. We forge strong links with the community and with partner agencies, working together to reduce crime and improve people's lives. Can the following officers please come forward? Mia Briston, Theodore Burkett, David Butterworth, Harry Carter Kay, Alexander Clark, Joshua Claxton, Alexander Clough, Caspian Clunis Ross, Sophie Connolly, Lucy Cooper, James Corcoran, William Crowther, Lewis Dalton, Amber Dennis, Amen Dessy, J. Din, William Roy Henry Drummond, Marcus Eccles, Jack Edwards, Gareth Edwards. Okay. Go. Yeah, go on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I expect you'd like to know how your new officer is going to deal with all the incidents I've been telling you about. Well, the first thing you need to know is that no officer is on their own. We are Team GMP. We're a family, and we all pull together and support each other. We start that on day one of training and continue that every day thereafter. The students are allocated a student officer, assessor, development coordinator, who is responsible for their training, support and development for their time in the workplace in the first 2 years. Initial training is 20 weeks, then the officers continue to be monitored and developed during the first 2 years, which is known as the probationary period. I think it's fair to say that they will continue to learn all the time they're on the job, and professional development will play a key part in this. In the first few weeks of training, your officers will have an introduction to GMP and see many guest speakers. They'll be taught communication skills and learn about human rights, the code of ethics, and equality issues. They will then start their diploma in policing, which can take up to 2 years to complete. Your officers this evening are being warranted with their policing powers, and this is a major step. They're now able to take away someone's liberty by arresting them. They can also stop and search suspects, force entry into premises, and seize property. They will soon learn about the correct use of arrests, cautions, and significant comments, and searching people after arrest. Later in the course, they will move to an area training base where they'll receive in-depth learning, including searches of vehicles, premises, and land, as well as statement taking. They'll be taught many things, amongst crime prevention, how to deal with victims and witnesses, how to gather and use evidence, how community policing works, how to acquire and use CCTV, how to respond to incidents, how to identify and deal with hate crime, how restorative justice works, and most importantly, how to keep people safe and play their part in improving their lives. Can the following officers please come forward? Antti Aronini, Grace Fallon, Peter Farnan, Usman Farouk, Connor Gallagher, Rachel Garbett, Emma Griffiths, Emily Hamilton, Sarah Hardman, Gemma Hayes, Danielle Hazelden, Steph Heaps, Scott Higginson, Megan Hilton, Matthew Hodgson, Daniel Holden, Sean Howard, Ben Hubbard, Jamie Hunter. As I mentioned previously, each student has a period of 2 years in which to complete initial training and then develop in their new role. The majority of the first 20 weeks is based in the classroom, but there are plenty of opportunities for the students to put into practice what they have learned. This includes practical scenarios designed to test their decision-making and problem-solving. The officers are then placed on their boroughs for 10 weeks with a tutor constable who is responsible for ensuring they are ready for independent patrol. Then after 10 weeks on their boroughs experiencing working on the streets, they come back to the training school to work on a fictitious criminal case from the start to finish. They will take part in an exercise that will give them the opportunity to produce a prosecution file from scratch. They gather evidence, compile statements and other necessary documentation before submitting the file for checking. The case is then taken to court. On occasions, we even enlist Manchester University law students who are training as barristers and a volunteer magistrate to make it as real as possible. Your officer will begin work on a local policing team on their borough. They will respond to incidents and get involved in problem solving and working with partner agencies and the community to tackle repeat problems. Offences like antisocial behaviour and shoplifting are committed by a tiny percentage in the population, many of whom are affected by drug or alcohol issues. Working effectively and efficiently with other agencies can help everyone involved. So, in a nutshell, the role of your officer will be to deal effectively with the 3 V's: the vulnerable, victims, and the villains. They will need to stay positive and to treat every person they meet with dignity and respect. Can the following officers please come forward? Oliver Hurst, Sean Hurst, Seamus Iqbal, Leah Jakes, Ellis Jenkinson, Erica Jones, Uzamar Khalid, Hamza Khan, Anthony Lemon, Christina Laundon, Joshua Lee, Jonathan Liversidge, Matthew Lloyd, Molly Mackay, Christopher Marshall, James Maskry, Alexander Masalowskis, Rebecca Mason, Harry Maul, Ryan McCann. We've been recruiting officers on this scale for the past 3 years. The first groups of officers to be attested in this way have now passed their probation and their policing diploma. At this year's GMP Stars Awards, our annual awards ceremony, which I had the honour of attending, 2 of our new recruits, Michael Froggatt and Brandon Adams, were nominated for an award for first aid. They attended a call where the victim's throat had been slashed, and they kept him alive until paramedics arrived. Another new recruit, Stephanie Melvin, won the Top Student Officer Award for the compassion she has shown dealing with many serious incidents. She builds a brilliant rapport with all the people she comes into contact with and has an ability to calm potentially life-threatening situations. The following officers, please come forward. James McDonough, Ross McNichol, Adnan Mahmood, Niall Malarkey, Alessia Melidoni, Ariane Mogadam Nia, Tracy Malloy, Jemima Morrison, Mohammed Nadeem, Roxanne Neal, Oliver Nielsen Bird, Jack Nikias, Jessica Nixon, Rebecca Norman, Liam O'Brien, Rianne O'Malley, Grace O'Rourke, Tom Painter. Also attesting here this evening are a group of officers who've taken a slightly different training route. They've all come to GMP via the Police Now Academy. Police Now Academy has been delivered in London in previous years, but this year we've been very proud to be involved with a scheme based at the Manchester Metropolitan University. The training is complemented by a comprehensive pre-learn that the student officers complete online in the months leading up to attending the academy. As the majority of the pre-learn focuses on legislation, the focus at the teaching of the academy is on putting that legislative and procedural knowledge into practice. The training is taught by syndicate leads, who are selected operational sergeants from participating forces, and credible experts within policing who bring energy and drive to all content delivery. This time, our academy, our own GMP specialist trainers, delivered public order and officer safety training, including life-saving and first aid. The syndicate lead role is critical to the success of the Summer Academy, whose role it is to lead teams of up to 10 student officers through every aspect of the academy. They aren't just a supervisor or a trainer, but they are also a transformational leader. Can the following officers please come forward? Neil Palmer, Chloe Payne, Natalie Perry, Ryan Pickles, Joshua Pope, Christopher Powell, Matthew Powell, Abdul Rahman, Jordan Reeves, John Rimmer, Tricia Ann Roberts, Richard Roberts, Zarina Robson, Shaheen Saleh, Minhaz Sarodia, Sophie Scott, Sulman Shafiq, Ali Shah, Mohammed Shahazad, Rihan Shakir. Police Now Summer Academy is a 6-week high-intensity training programme. Over the 6 weeks, student officers receive the core learning they need, including practical skills and legislative knowledge, and they leave the academy ready to hit the ground running in force and become frontline police officers. This includes all officers completing a 3-month pre-academy development programme with a final legal knowledge exam to demonstrate their underpinning understanding prior to starting at the academy. Through the 6-week academy, each participant must pass many practical and written assessments, as well as 3 knowledge check exams to demonstrate they are fit for duty. This also includes full emergency life-saving assessment, operational safety training, and 6 days shadowing operational officers within GMP, otherwise known as field training. The student officers after the 6-week academy then arrive at GMP for a 2-week in-force training, which includes computer systems, mobile data, radio training, and core GMP policing and local policies. The students are currently on a 10-week tutorship programme, which includes working with experienced tutors attending incidents where vulnerability, threats and risks are managed, and the students evidence their development via reflective learning and on-the-job experience before starting with their neighbourhood teams in December 2019. The following officers, please come forward. Rosanna Shaw, David Sinclair, Tomas Selminski, Anna Snowden, Ryan Stapley, Ella Starbuck, Chloe Steele, Dean Strickland, Kelly Strickland, Jonathan Sewell, Cherie Talbot Goldman, Thea Taylor, Robert Taylor, Sarah Taylor, Grace Find, Caden Thomas, Danielle Thompson, James Thompson, Carl Thorne, Ben Tomlinson. The officers tonight are to be deployed against all 10 districts of Greater Manchester: Wigan, Bolton, Tameside, Stockport, Trafford, Bury, Rochdale, Salford, Oldham and the City of Manchester. The role of an officer is incredibly varied, and no 2 days are ever the same. Initially, most will work on the neighbourhood or response teams and may stay there for the whole career. There are, however, many opportunities to diversify in policing. They may train to become a detective or specialise in particular types of crime, such as child protection or economic or cybercrime. There are roles in custody or counter-terrorism. They could work in the operational control branch. They may also wish to be trained as an armed officer or work with the dogs and horses. Many officers in their career become trainers, imparting their knowledge onto new recruits. The list is endless. One thing that I can testify to is that they are guaranteed, though, they will never be bored. The following officers, please come forward: Niall Vivian, Gabrielle Wakefield, Abigail Walker, Kieran Walsh, Joshua Wigley, Craig Williams, Hannah Williams, Miles Wold, Hannah Woodall, Alicia Wood-Potter, Thomas Woods, Craig Wright, Rosie Wright, Ashley Kate Young. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know what you're thinking. My officer is special. My officer will rise right to the top of the tree and take over as Chief Constable. Well, one of the officers here tonight, yours, may well do that. They will need to work really hard, and currently they'll need to be promoted through all 9 ranks. Constable, Sergeant, Inspector, Chief Inspector, Superintendent, Chief Superintendent, Assistant Chief Constable, Deputy Chief Constable. Then, if they work really hard, and they're lucky, and they're as special as you think they are, your officer may one day become the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police. Very well done, officers. I'd now like to invite the Deputy Mayor of Manchester, Baroness Beverly Hughes, to say a few words.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's really good to be here. I always enjoy coming to these attestation evenings and meeting for the first time our fantastic new recruits. And it's really interesting. I was trying to look through the booklet as I was talking to people to see what interesting things our recruits have been doing, and also to read of the commitment they're already expressing and the passion that they feel for coming into Greater Manchester Police, and that's really good to see and hear. Since our Mayor Andy Burnham asked me just over 2.5 years ago to be the Deputy Mayor for Greater Manchester and take on the police and crime responsibilities for him, it's been my enormous privilege to see at very close quarters the vast range of work that our officers, our PCSOs and our police staff do for the people of Greater Manchester. The video that you saw earlier gave you a taster, but actually it's much more broad and varied and deep than that. Challenging, yes, but also really rewarding. I wanted to say, particularly to the recruits today, to our new officers rather, I should say, having given them all their warrant cards, that they've already achieved a great deal by reaching this important milestone, no doubt with the support of your parents and your families, and it's fantastic to see so many of you here today, because that really does count for a lot, and I think they will need that support continuing as they develop in their roles. I know it's a very proud moment for you. You're now warranted to serve the public of Greater Manchester as a police officer. And I want to emphasise that this is a service. I never use the term police force because it's a service, and it's probably one of the most important public services that as a country we provide for our citizens, keeping communities safe, helping to solve problems, responding to people in distress and in trouble, fighting crime, and bringing to justice those who would threaten or harm others. And I don't think there can be a more important service than that. It's basic. Unless our people are protected and feel safe, they can't realise their own potential and live their lives happily. And with those powers to act on behalf of our citizens, obviously come great responsibilities too. To be fair, to be honest, to be impartial in all your dealings, and to be of the highest integrity. And your integrity, for me, is the most important characteristic that you'll bring to this job. The training, all the experience you'll gather are obviously very important, but ultimately what counts is the values that you hold and the integrity in protecting those values that you bring to this job. And I see that every day in the police officers I work with and that I meet up with. And I think that is the most important thing, never to compromise your own integrity. Always be able to look yourself in the mirror and know that you've acted according to the best values and in the interests of the people that you serve. My job with the Chief Constable, part of my job is to make sure that you have all you need as you start on this amazing career that's in front of you, to develop your potential, develop your abilities, to succeed in your role and deliver the best possible service you can for our citizens here. But modern policing doesn't do that alone anymore, because as well as working cooperatively with other officers and PCSOs and members of the police service, you also need to work in partnership with other organisations, because the complexity and the nature of many of the issues you'll deal with demand that you can work with local authority workers, with social workers, with health service personnel, with mental health practitioners, with schools, and with the voluntary sector too, who do a great job here. So you have great opportunities in front of you, a great opportunity to develop yourself, to serve your community, but also to have a great career. It's been wonderful to meet you all tonight, and I hope I see some of you, in the next weeks and months as I go about my work. But for now, I just want to wish you all the best and very well done.
Baroness Hughes, thank you for them inspirational words. And I'd like to invite the Chief Constable to close the ceremony.
I hope your hands aren't hurting too much from all that clapping. I have to say my cheeks are a little numb from all that smiling. But I'd like to congratulate most of my new colleagues on passing the test of how do you hold your certificate with the Chief Constable. Most of them got it right. And I was listening very carefully to when Trevor was explaining the ranks that you go through, and that one of them may end up being in the privileged position that I find myself as the Chief Constable. Well, I've spotted that individual because everybody this evening stood to my right to have their photograph taken, bar one who's tried to stand to my left. So they are clearly Chief Constable material in the making. I would just like to recognise Beverly Hughes and Andy Burnham's support in making sure that we have these new officers before us this evening. They are part of a cohort of just over 700 this year that will be joining Greater Manchester Police. So that's to replace those officers that are retiring from the service, and just over 300 of them are actually growth, and it's the first significant growth that we've had in officer numbers since we started cutting officer numbers in 2011. And the reason I want to thank Andy and Bev is because their support in making sure that we got the budget this year and the council tax increase to be able to bring in those additional recruits. And I'm very thankful that the government have announced that we will be getting another 347 growth over the next 18 months, which is very, very welcome. What I would say is that as good as that is, it still leaves us around 1,500 officers less than we were in 2010. So if you imagine 10 times the amount of officers that are sat before you this evening, that's still the numbers that we would require to get back to where we were in 2010. But as I said, it is a real opportunity for us that we are starting to grow for the first time, and for one that we are also very, very thankful. I'm also delighted that there's around about 1,600 people watched on Facebook Live this evening. I know from talking to one or two of our new colleagues that some of their families couldn't be here because they live in different parts of the country, and so they've been able to watch this evening. So that is really good. And a long way from when I joined, that we got marched off to the magistrates in the middle of the afternoon. We swore the oath in front of the magistrate and went back to the training room, and nobody ever said anything about it again, I don't think. But very different world that we live in. And I was reflecting, and this is the old grumpy bit in me, but guys, one or two of you need to go and see the barber and get your hair cut. I'm really sorry. I know it's all about inclusivity and diversity, and I actually lead on that, but there is a bit about looking smart in your uniform. Right, that said, what I want to do is welcome the families that are all sat out there this evening, because you are now part of our family, and you are a very important part of supporting your loved ones in what is a really difficult and challenging role. And only today I've been with senior colleagues, and we've been discussing some of the issues around well-being and how we keep officers both physically fit but also mentally fit. And the tasks that they undertake and the things that they see are on occasions pretty horrific, but it's quite relentless, the things that they go to and the things that they have to deal with. So it's really important that not only that they stay in good physical health, but also in good mental health. And we're very much pushing the fact that it's okay to talk about not being okay and to seek that support. We have a very good welfare department and services available in Greater Manchester Police. And I'm delighted that Reverend Charles Nevin is here this evening. Charles leads our chaplains, who are part of that wider pastoral care that we offer to our colleagues, both those with faith and without. They are there for people to talk to, as well as the other welfare provision that is in place. Can I thank our training staff? I know there's a number stood at the side and at the back, and they often look like proud parents as they're all coming up this evening, because they invest a lot of time and energy and passion into trying to give the very best start to their policing career to our new colleagues. So thank you to all of them for the work that they do. Thank you to Trevor behind me for so expertly guiding us through this evening's ceremony. And of course to Chris, the force photographer, the band that played for us at the beginning, and Wendy and her team, who make sure we're all here at the right time in the right place so that this evening can happen. There are a number of my colleagues representing our district, some of my senior colleagues here this evening who will want to speak to our new colleagues and their families from the areas that they represent. And I'm also delighted that two of my Chief Officer colleagues are here, Assistant Chief Constable Nick Bailey and Assistant Chief Officer Mike Walmsley, who heads up our Special Constabulary, who again will both want to be able to speak to you. The one thing about policing is it never stands still. We are a reflection of society, and you will all know how rapidly things change in this country, unless it's Brexit negotiations, which seem to go on forever and ever. But that aside, things change dramatically. Technology changes. The way that we have to adapt to dealing with technology changes. Different societal values change, and policing has to continually change. It is no point joining the police service if you think that the service you join in 2019 is going to be the same in 2021 or 2025. It will change, and you need to change with it. You need to push some of that change. You need to engage with it. You need to come up with new ideas and new ways of working with our partners and our communities. So the message to all of you tonight is keep learning, keep developing, keep pushing the service forward. And if you do that, you will have a hugely rewarding and fulfilling career. And finally, the one thing that I would just end on in saying to you is this, that policing does give you the opportunity to do something very, very special. And that is to make a difference to fellow citizens' lives. Now, not everybody gets to do something that special when they go to work. So please treasure that opportunity, make a difference, whilst being very proud to represent Greater Manchester and Greater Manchester Police. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Sir, thank you very much for them closing words. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree with myself that these officers now need a final round of applause. That concludes our attestation ceremony. I do hope you've enjoyed it this evening. It's been a pleasure to be your MC. We will be having some